Tat Sat. So yesterday we had done up till the verse number 63 of the 18th chapter, the commentary of Madhusudana Saraswati, Gudhartha Deepika, and we'll move forward. And Bhagavan is finally mentioning in the verse number 63 that I'm telling you, and I've told you the whole truth about sadhana. You can do karma, you can do jnana nishta if you're ready for it, or in fact, you can continue to do what you're doing, but with a certain modification of your mindset. You purify this and you try to surrender whatever you're doing at my feet, and without any addiction or craving for the results thereof, and without any attachment to what you're doing. Because if you have attachment, that's problematic. Then there's going to be karma bandha. That's going to impose a few limitations on you. And that will be endless. One limitation leads to another. So Bhagavan, in the verse number 64 says, Sarva guhya tamam bhuyaha sunami paramam vachaha ishtosi me drudhamati tato vakhyami te hitam. Sarva guhya tamam bhuyaha sunami paramam vachaha. That is my last and final word. He's now going to give the final advice, because the student, he was again and again asking Bhagavan, please tell me what's the ultimate path. And Bhagavan was kind of giving a lot of philosophical answers with a lot of qualifications. You can do that provided you qualify with these preconditions. It's like a legal agreement. So there are too many terms and conditions. So nobody pays attention to that. People are looking for very clear guidance. If somebody is in distress, is very disturbed, he needs your guidance. You are a leader, you're the boss, the CEO, or the manager. You need to tell him what exactly he has to do. If you go in circles and give some sort of an advice, he's likely to get more confused and not be in a position to implement whatever good advice you may have given. That's what happens in bureaucracy, the government bureaucracies. The seniors give certain advice, cowsed in a lot of pros and cons. They want to wash their hands off and not take any responsibility for whatever decision they're advising or approving. So this is clear, provided that you have looked at these aspects. That doesn't mean anything. That subordinate is that reporting officer is completely confusing. He doesn't know what exactly he's been advised to do by his senior, and he doesn't know what to advise to his subordinates. That becomes very confusing. Bhagavan is not doing that. He's bringing this whole dialogue to a logical conclusion by saying this. Please understand, this is the most secret of all secrets I have shared with you. This is my final word. Ishto sime druhamiti. And that's because you are very tato vakhyami te hitam. Because, in fact, you are very dear to me. There's no confusion about it. Now, this dridham iti, in certain books it's written, certain wise commentators have said drudhamatihi. That's how they have sort of interpreted that. And because this is what Ishto Sime Dridham Iti, that's what Madhusudana Saraswati explains. Tato Vakhyami Te Hitam. I have concluded this. I'm not trying to sort of mislead you or leave you with multiple options just because I want to appear as very wise to you. That's not my purpose. I'm not looking for any praise, adulation, or following. I don't need any. I'm perfect. I'm the creator and sustainer of this universe. And this whole thing will get also dissolved in me. So I'm beyond all sorts of cravings or desires that you humans have. That's because of your own past karmas. That's because you are in a state of imperfect self-understanding. I don't have to seek any understanding. I'm just trying to see how you sort of graduate, because I have created you. And truthfully speaking, your essence and my essence are one, which is Satchidananda Sarupa. But you are a little confused. You do not understand that you are also verily the self. You are defined with a few limitations of the body and the mind. But you are actually the same limitless consciousness that I am, with a few apparent limitations and in a limited framework called a human being or human consciousness. This pure consciousness takes the form of human consciousness. Now, verily, the human consciousness which you represent is not different from, is not separate from, is not below or above the pure consciousness which pervades everything, which explains why I'm, the boss of the universe, because I'm everywhere. There's nothing outside of me, nor you, nor your enemies, nor your friends. And he's saying, I'm telling you for your benefit, and I don't have any desire to sort of cheat you or sort of make you happy by saying a few sweet words. That's not my purpose. Now let's look at this commentary. Purvahi guhyat karma yogat guhyataram jnanam. I mentioned that this karma yoga is very important, and later on I said in chapter 11 that all the sadhanas end in jnana, self-realization. Without self-realization, without self-understanding, even in the Greek tradition, if you look at the philosophy of somebody like Aristotle, he sort of distinguishes the engagements of human beings and their mind at two levels, theoretica and practica. So it's the interaction with the external material world is kind of defined as a domain of the practica. And then the contemplative engagement of the mind with abstract things, with truth, with ethics, with aesthetics, that is theoretical. It sort of is privileged over a more pragmatic engagement of the mind to understand and deal with the external world. All of us do that. I mean, you might read a lot of philosophy, but if you want to make a cup of coffee, you must know how to do it. Philosophy isn't going to help. And somebody who absolutely doesn't know anything about the theory of heat and how coffee is made, he's not an expert about all these, he may make a better cup of coffee than you do with all your philosophical understanding. That's fine. So therefore, in the beginning, there's a lot of discussion about karma, how to relate to the external world about other human beings without getting affected, without getting trapped, which is the normal case with all of us. And then you graduate, what is even more subtler, which more secret, the secret of pursuing self-awareness or self-knowledge, that is jnana nishtha. Akhyatam adhunatu karma yogat tat phalabhuta jnanacha. So we first talked about the nishkama karma yoga, and with nishkama karma yoga, you have purification, dusting, cleansing, flushing out of the garbage of our consciousness. You have a pure mind. When you have that pure mind, you have the basic minimum qualification, or even a little advanced qualification if you've done a bit of upasana, bit of yogic exercises. The mind is still and simple and transparent. And therefore, you can graduate to reading the sacred texts, which are written in very complex cryptic language, with the help of an acharya, somebody who is trained in that tradition, to explain these things to you. And then what happens? You get the understanding, the meaning of these sentences and statements in the Upanishads or in Bhagavad Gita. Then you meditate on them. What do these say? What does it mean? Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. I'm a limited human being. How can I be perfect? How can I be Brahman? Is he trying to cheat me? So you understand what exactly is this? How can a human being be godlike? What is the meaning of it? So the inner layers and layers of understanding, which do not apparently manifest through the words or the syntactic structures, which sort of hold together a set of words in the Upanishads, these are unraveled by experienced, wise, and spiritually elevated acharyas or gurus. They give us the secrets behind these texts. And then the student meditates on them. He sort of personalizes this abstract knowledge, applies to his life, and then he meditates. Then he has a more personal understanding of it. Then finally, there's nididhyasana, Suddenly, as they call in Hegel, the quantity becomes quality. You have a lot of milk and you churn it. And suddenly, what do you have? You have butter coming out, the cream. Then you heat it, you burn it a little, you cook it a little, you have purified butter, ghee, isn't it? The milk has become ghee through a certain process. Same way, this consciousness, with a lot of physical discipline, mental discipline, and then upasanas and meditations, and over a longer period of time, when it has become thinner, sharper, transparent, it starts reflecting the divinity to a greater extent. And there comes a time when all divisions, all differences cease to exist. And there is only one pure consciousness. And that's what is the phala, the jnana nishta. So, what do you have first? Karma yoga, nishkama karma, three conditions. Ishwararpana buddhi, then you have samatva bhava, phalasanga tyaga, three things. Don't look for results, maintain patience, have endurance, and then surrender everything to the Lord. In this whole process, what happens? The mind becomes subtler, transparent, cleaner. Then you have vividisa, to know more about it. The mind is ready. Then you do some upasanas as well. In the initial Upanishads, there are many upasanas, vidyas as they're called. And with these upasanas are meditations. And finally, you also know the inner meaning. You do vichara, no more meditation. You do this karma, then meditation, then you do the vichara, analysis. When the Buddhists, they have the prasangika school. It's a longer route, but a very stable route, very certain result. Doesn't happen in a day. You might sit in a meditation and still your mind, but it doesn't last a very long time. Jnana Vairagya is the real Vairagya because that sort of gives you the stability. The confusions are over. You are not distracted again and again once you have a fuller, clearer understanding about who you are, why you are here, what are you trying to reach at. This is the Jnana which are consequence, the result, the reward for karma, nishkama karma nishta, the karma yoga. This is the reward. Then both this karma and karma reward, which is Jnana there is something which is even superior to these two disciplines. So you have a coursework, you graduate, then you do a PhD, you write the dissertation. But there is something superior to both these levels of sadhana, of spiritual, pursuance of self-knowledge. And what is that? That is he's trying to tell here. That is what rahasyam, atisayana guhyam rahasyam, guhyatamam paramam sarvatah prakrishtam. And this is superior to all the secrets of sadhana, of spiritual exploration that we have discussed so far. Me mama vachaha, and these are my statements. Please now carefully listen to me. Vakyam bhuyaha tatra uktamapi. I have mentioned that again and again earlier. Maybe you haven't understood it very well. Mai Tvad anugrahartham. However, I want to be compassionate, help you one more time, repeat it for you. Why? I know you're my best friend, but not so attentive, maybe. It's like when the little boy wakes, grows up a little and he's ready to go to school. But he goes to a boarding school, he's still about 7, 8, or maybe 10 years of age. So the mother chases this child to the gate of that school. He's saying, you don't forget to do this. You have to do this. You have to do that. And he says, Mama, I have understood. Now don't bother me. But the mother does it one more time. She's nagging. She is so much in love with the child. She says, boy, you must wake up in time. You understand? And never forget to do your coursework. There'll be no mom to remind you. You understand? Would you have a book to mention about what are the things that you have to do, your tasks? Yeah? And never forget to call me. Would you do that? Yes, Mama, I'll do it. Same way, Bhagavan, he's just mother and father of all of us. Lord Krishna is compassionate, and therefore he's saying, please, it's for your benefit, my boy. You're my friend, you're my boy. And please understand that you need to pay extra attention to it because this is the top secret I'm going to tell you. And what is that? And he's clarifying, Punarvakhyamana. just to benefit you, so that you don't forget. I'm again telling this to you. Na lava puja khyati adi artham. I'm not saying this to you because you're going to thank me, you're going to be grateful to me. No, Lord doesn't want any of these. He's not short of anything, and therefore He doesn't need any of these. Twang Bravini, it's not because I have a certain motivation in terms of getting adulation or praise, or you'll do puja, you'll do my meditation. I'm not interested in any of these. Kintu Ishtaha Priya Asime. That's because you're so dear to me, because you are my great devotees. In our tradition, actually, the Lord is attached to the devotee. The devotee may not be attached to the Lord. It's a very beautiful, romantic, it's a very intimate relationship. It's much more intimate than the intimate relationship between a man and a woman who are in love. It's a very deep relationship. Because you see, physical relationship, a physical interaction is what? It is sanyoga, isn't it? Two bodies can come together, that's it. They can talk, they can share letters, they can send SMSs to each other. It's essentially something, a kind of a physical thing is there, even though it may be through words, through music, through glances. But imagine there's a very strong physical aspect to it. And it's anitya, it's temporary. It cannot be there, it cannot sustain there for too long. If it does, it produces boredom, in most cases also quarrels, sometimes babies, sometimes a breakup. But with God, when the devotee is connected, there's nothing physical. Of course, he sits and meditates and all. But there is a relationship in a subtler world. The consciousness rises to a much higher level. And therefore, that is stronger. Whatever is sukshma, whatever is subtle is, remember, more powerful. That's why you have atom bombs very powerful, isn't it? Than a stone. Stone is physical. Atoms are invisible. They can create havoc. Same way is spiritual love. It's not physical. It's not emotional. But a very deeper spiritual, deeper, subtler level, the human consciousness relates with the divine reality, the divine consciousness, what we call the pure consciousness in Vedanta. And the pull and the relationship there, actually, it's not a relationship in the normal sense of the term, because both of them, they're one and the same thing. So it's all self-awareness, where you discard the outer layers, then more and more we become aware of that inner core, and that inner core is without a name and form, we are liberated. That is divine. As Sri Aurobindo mentions in one of these advices to one of the guys, he says, how do I meditate? And he tells that young man who had gone there for advice, he says, just open your consciousness up and await for the divine grace to descend. You don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is discard everything that is you, which is inherited from your experiences, from your habits, from your work. You remove this. Allow the consciousness. Allow it to open up. Open it up to the divine. Divine will descend. The beauty of it is there's no difference between the Advaita Mata and Sri Aurobindo's Mata. If we look at it really, because when we are trying to be self-aware, so it's all inside. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, you are not learning anything, you're just trying to remember the thing. That truth is within us. So when we get rid of loads of garbage we have accumulated through our actions and thoughts and interactions in our mind, we remove all that. The pure consciousness becomes self-luminous. It expresses and declares its presence. We are at a witness state, then even that individuality sort of gets dissolved and that pure consciousness remains. That is what would be a non-dualistic interpretation of it. But Bhagavan here, remember, that is the ultimate stage. But in the sadhana dasa, when we are still undertaking the journey, what is important is that we still get that grace, we seek that grace. Through that process of seeking alone, we can remove the garbage. Bhagavan has said earlier, isn't it? The indriyas are like assassins, they're chasing you to kill you. What do I do? They're so powerful. Then Bhagavan says, no, Why don't you become Makpara? You know that I'm the Almighty, right? Yeah. So you're scared of your senses? You're scared of other people? Why don't you turn to me? Yeah, then you are all powerful. No one can threaten you. So during the process of seeking self realization, it's important to understand this apparent dualism in the practice is actually a way to non dualistic realization of the self, not contradictory at all. It's just a gradual evolution of it. The one who strong has strong adherence to the sectarian interpretations and he's sort of caught up with words. He enjoys reading that text whole life, cannot graduate to the next level. Because Bhagwan is saying that in his own words, and I'm not saying anything. What does he say? Brabhimitakin ishta priyosime mama druraham mati sayena druram ati sayena iti. Because I'm verily sure about what I'm going to advise you. Yataha tataha tena eva ishtatvena vakhyami. That's why I'm saying this is the most superior thing that you need to follow. I'm quite sure about it. I'm not confused and I'm not trying to confuse you. Kathaishyami aprishtopi. You haven't asked me this, that I'm going to give you that top secret. I'm going to give you the key to open that gateway to the self. And he's going to give a bombshell. It's a beautiful couple of verses that we're going to do. San aham te tavahitam paramam shreyaha. And this is the ultimate thing that you should seek in life. You've already heard me throughout Bhagavad Gita, and that today I'm going to conclude this for you. Today means at this moment, because they had a conversation. Anyway, this is a beautifully constructed text because you, in a real war field, you'll not have this kind of a conversation. The war is definitely a metaphor here. It's about life. And that's what certain people who said Lord Krishna is promoting a war because you have a limited, you have this tunnel vision. You never have this kind of a war. If somebody wants to egg somebody onto a war, is he going to tell all this philosophy to him? What he will say? Go kill. Right? That's what people do, like a demagogue, like the Nazi guys used to do. They never gave long speeches. They gave that to brainwash them. Only thing would say about war, 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 you're superior, you're this, you're that. Here, Bhagavan is saying a lot of things, and this couldn't be for brainwashing somebody to go and turn violent. But one has to present the whole picture of life, and there are these different levels. And the advice is that you cannot run away from your karma just because you have a bit of a spiritual apparent awakening is the call. Suddenly walking by the Ganges or you're sitting in a cafe, you suddenly feel lost. Maybe because you had a heartbreak or you had an argument with your superior or some friend did not heed your advice. It could be anything that has happened in your life. These are all triggers. But maybe there was a streak of spirituality in you and therefore suddenly you feel I don't belong here. And when that becomes stronger and stronger, you want to find more. You run to gurus, run to the libraries, you go to the Google and look for different things, isn't it? So Bhagavan is giving the ultimate thing in this next verse, verse number 65, and then verse number 66. Tadeva aha. Now these are the two verses, most important, in chapter 18. Manamana bhavamata bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mami vaisyasi satyam te pratijani priyosimi. Beautiful. Manamana bhava. Continue always to only think about me. Manamana, your mind should be completely focused on me. Then how do I work? Then how do I lead my family life? How do I talk to my friends? I have explained that to you already in second chapter. Go. What is the Siddha Prajnasyaka Bhasa? You had asked, I have explained to you that you can continue to exercise your sense organs, connect with the external world, but staying away from raga dvesha and by being mahpara. I have explained that everything, the whole technique of survival. There are different chapters where Bhagavan is giving us different technologies. In chapter 6, he tells us a lot about how to meditate. What are the technology of the self, as they call it. Sit together with yourself, all alone. Divikta desa sevitvam. Be isolated from others. Don't all the time talk to people, seek attention of others, self-defeating, self-destructive. Well, if somebody is coming, are you going to ignore? There's a phone call, somebody's not well, needs your help to go to hospital, aren't you going? Of course you would. But you will carry yourself with me and you will continue to remember me. Manamana Bhava. And next what? Madhyaji, Yajana. All the pujas and arpanas and other things you're doing, do whatever, all sacrifices. Every activity in our parampara, in this tradition, is a sacrifice. Sacrifice is a very limited way to express it. It's not, I mean, there are a lot of intellectuals who are working on it. Yajna is not sacrifice. It's a kind of an offering for attaining a higher level of being. It's in the process of spiritual evolution. You have to forego something to go to a more subtler level of existence. And to achieve these subtler levels of experiences, of realizations, you do different kinds of exercises. Like you want to have muscle, you go to the gym. And similarly, you want to be peaceful, you have to do some pranayama, you have to do some meditation, you have to do some upasana. That's what the text says. Madhyaji, Mam Namaskuru, and bow down to me. Look here. Arjuna had told him, you're my friend, now you're my teacher. And he apologized in chapter 11. By mistake, I have treated you. I have treated you as if you're my friend. I didn't know you're Lord of the universe. Please forgive me. That has already happened. There's no need for any repetition. Bhagwan directly says, bow down to me. Because here Arjuna has himself understood that he is not talking to a human being who is his cousin brother. He's talking to the Lord of the universe. He's saying, surrender to this ultimate truth. And Mam eva esyasi. And if you do that, what happens? What is the phala? Why should you do that? You shall get me. Bhagavan said earlier in different verses that if you do this through karma nishta, you will have vividisa, and then you'll go and study. Then finally jnana nishta, then you get me. And then in jnana nishta, you will understand who am I, and then you will get liberation. He has mentioned all that. He's saying, Mam eva esyasi, you shall get me. Satyam te pratijane priyosi me. You'll definitely get me, without any doubt. There's absolutely no apprehension. There's no room for any apprehension. And please understand that. You are very dear to me. Why? Arjuna is truthful. He has vairagya. He has the ability to forego things which belongs to him. What are the examples? One of the most beautiful dancers of heaven approached him for love. What did he do? No, he was not tempted. He was a very handsome man. He was the finest archer on earth. All women must be going crazy looking at him. He was an extremely disciplined person. And then what did he do? He won in a battle, in a competition. And he won the hand of Draupadi, but set a very tough challenge. He won it. He could shoot at the eye of the fish which is hanging and instead of moving around on a wheel. Without looking at it, looking at the water, he could shoot it. And what happens? His mother says, the gift you have got, you must share with all. Because he thought they had gone out for viksha, begging. They have collected some alms, so you share it with your brothers. Now, these stupid brothers, apparently Yudhishthira, who is a dharmatma, and Bhima, who is a powerful guy, they're elder to him. As per our cultural tradition, the younger brother's wife is like your daughter-in-law or daughter. You're not supposed to look at her. They find this, yeah, mom is saying so, let's do it. Let's marry her. Arjuna didn't say a word. Stayed cool. He had no problem. In normal situations, there'll be bloodshed. If the same girl, two brothers are fighting over her, what happens? They stop talking to each other. Here, Arjuna has no problem, isn't it? Dhananjaya, he won a lot of gold. He's Rajasuya Yajna. Did he establish a kingdom of his own? No, he gave out the gold for this yajna so that the gold could be distributed among the poor people. And then he had a fight with Lord Shiva, right? And then did he claim that I'm like a god? I need offerings, I need gifts from people? No. He's like a slave of the Lord of the universe. He says, please advise me. He's humble, he's truthful, he's not hiding his problem. He has moral compaction, he has moral dilemmas, which means he's truthful. A dishonest person doesn't feel sad. Only a truthful person. Dishonest person gets angry. The dishonest person doesn't get any moral dilemmas. He has only one confusion. Will I get it or I don't get it? How to get it? These are the confusions he has. He has apprehensions, fears, anger. Moral dilemmas, no. His mind is not ethical. So he'll not have any moral dilemmas. Arjuna has. Now, he is a qualified student of Lord of the Universe, Lord Krishna. And therefore, Lord Krishna is telling him, you are dear to me. What is he trying to say to us through Arjuna? Bhagavan is saying, if you become like Arjuna, I'm going to come and tell you the secret. In whatever situation in life you may be, provided you have that honesty, that simplicity, that sense of surrender, and you have opened your heart to me, I shall not teach you. I shall come and I shall tell you the truth. Now, many times in life we are very confused, aren't we? We feel depressed, we feel anxious, very apprehensive. And then there is a voice which speaks to us from within. It's the Lord. It's the Lord of the universe. Speaks through maybe a dream, maybe suddenly you open your diary, you read a sentence, maybe you chance upon a statement of somebody. He's sending you signals because you are dear to him. Because he or she, in our tradition, the Lord could be he or she. And he or she sort of recognizes you as dear to him and you're truthful, and your truthfulness is rewarded with guidance. The only reward for a truth seeker is not the truth, because truth is not different from you. It's guidance to remove the obstacles, the layers and layers of jumpsuits, which are loads of ignorance, and we are smothered in that heap of ignorance. And Lord helps us remove the soil, the dust, the mud, the garbage, stand up, recognize oneself. So he says, we shall get it, and then let's look at how he explains this. Mai Bhagavati Vasudeve Manojasya Saha Manmana. Who is Manmana? Manmana, Mat, whose mind is full of me. Me, Lord Krishna is saying this. In me, the Vasudeva, who is everywhere, omnipresent, whose mind is established, he is Manmana. Bhava, you be that. Sada Mam Chintaya, contemplate on me all the time. Dveshana, however, there are people who are thinking about God because they see God as an adversary, like an atheist. You have a lot of people, who are maybe Marxists. I was one decades back. So you have dvesha. You don't believe anything sacred or divine. You make fun of it. You want to break temples and mosques and churches and kill people. That's what happened in Russia and China. Many other parts. And Sri Aurobindo in The Human Cycle wrote a beautiful sentence. He said, the Soviet system is not going to last too long because it's violating that spiritual principle of allowing the individual to seek an understanding of the self. And the whole thing is on spiritual. So it cannot sustain itself. Writing in 1920s, he wrote that and he said, the system may perhaps last about 80 years, 90 years. Interestingly, the whole system collapsed in the early 90s. Exactly within 70 years of Sri Aurobindo's writing, if you want to look at the human cycle. You are sharp inside. That's what happens when the mind becomes very subtle. So he's saying, Mam Chintaya, meditate on me, but not as an adversary. Then you will not get the benefit. Of course, you will think about me, you will get something, but you hate me, you remember me. Yeah, you remember God because you hate God. Yeah, but that remembrance is itself better than not remembering at all. That's not going to give you the benefit. The grace is not going to come in your way. A lot of people have been punished. God comes and just terminates them in the Puranas, the stories that we have heard of. Dveshana Kamsa Sisupaladi Tatha. Because there are a lot of people who are adversaries of Lord Krishna, like Shishupala. Kamsa, his own uncle, wanted to kill him because there was this declaration from heaven that your own nephew, the eighth one, is going to terminate you. So he wanted to kill all the nephews, including a little girl who was past the seventh child. Dveshana Kansa Sisupalaadhirapi tathaha madabhaktaha premna mai anuraktaha. Who is kind of attracted to me out of love, out of affection, out of yearning. You want to be with me. Not because you hate me, you want to kill me. Of course you can't. That's just stupidity. And then what? Mad Vishayena Anuragena Sada Mad Vishayam Manaha Kuru. You orient your mind to me, establish it in me. The subject matter of your contemplation should me. That is the self. Think about it. Anuragena, with love. That is the Bhakti Yoga. Sada Madvisayam. Then all the time do it. Iti Vidhyate. That is the advice. Tvad Vishaya Anuraga Eva. Kena Syad Ityata Aha. Now, how do I focus my mind on you? Arjuna can ask this question. First of all, you are not physically available all the time. People don't even believe you exist. And then you're advising, think about me. There's no proof even if you exist. How do I do that? Therefore, Bhagavan says, Madhyaji mam yastrum pujaitum shila yasya saha sada mat puja parubhava. Okay, you don't know? Okay. There are a lot of beautiful mantras to chant, prayers. You read them. And Priju, I'm standing right in front of you. I'm listening to you. So you do this yajana. You do some homam, some havan, some fire sacrifice. There are a lot of rituals you can do. Do it. Okay? And then what? Puja parubhava. Puja apagarana bhavepi. Mam namaskuriva. It's quite possible. He's talking about the Brahminical or the Hindu religious tradition where people use a lot of things, right? You want to have some fruits being offered, also in Buddhist tradition. Some fruits and clothes, and I see some beautiful things in Buddhist temples. They also offer biscuit packets, chocolates, fruit juices. I had been to the Dharmasala. I saw fruit juices kept, and biscuits and cookies and chocolates, and I was so happy. Isn't that a manifestation of devotion and love? And I saw once, I think in Nampen or somebody, I saw coconut water being offered. I love that. That's what is being done, isn't it? So it's summer. You love God, offer a coconut water. He's not there to drink it. Doesn't matter. How do you know what he does? You offer it. You express your love. And that love is rewarded immediately. In what form? You get 2-3 coconut waters? No, that's stupidity. That offering of coconut water makes your consciousness subtler with an experience of this act of connecting with God. That purifies the whole thing. That itself is the result. That is the Jnana Nishtha when you're doing Upasana. It's not that I'm going to give 3 coconuts and he's going to give me 10 ice creams. And I love ice creams. So you give coconuts, God gives you ice creams, and you offer this, you offer. That's what goes on at a lower level of understanding. The very act of giving itself is the reward because that purifies our consciousness. So he's saying Madhyasi. And then if you do not afford these giveaways like you want to offer, the offerings, you are not so well off right now. Okay, remember me. Take my name. Mam namaskuru kayana vacha manasacha. With physical presence, in your mind, and by praying, connect with me. I don't need anything. Patram puspam phalam tuyam. If you are a sakama karmi, then you do all this. You're going to somebody, you want to please him, you want some benefits. You carry gifts. And should be to his liking. Because he's otherwise not going to give you a favor. But you're going to him and he's just carrying a 10 rupee chocolate. Or maybe nothing. Just a small card which you have made with your own hand. happy birthday. And then he looks at you and says, okay, so what do you want? He said, no, sir, I just came to thank you. It was your birthday, and so I drew this greeting card for you. What can I do for you? No, sir, you don't have to do anything. I just love you. Think about it. That friend of yours, that colleague of yours will genuinely feel good. He knows you can't offer. Actually, when you are in trouble, that fellow might actually help you. And if you give some material gifts, he might feel offended. You are trying to bribe me. That's going to be the conclusion. God doesn't need any bribes. He needs love. He doesn't need it. We should consider he needs because we need his love. We need his protection. So it's better that we practice it and not wait for the reward. That is the top secret. You should not expect anything. That is the best way to be. Your only goal in life is to just wait for that chance he glances upon you. He's going to transform your life. So that is what Bhagavan says. Try to do this. Idam archana vandanam cha anyasham api bhagavad dharmanam upalakhanam. There are other ways of connecting with God. In the Vaishnava Parampara in India, he's saying, Tathas Uktam Sri Bhagavate, the great book Bhagavata Purana. What are the ways of connecting with God? And he's sort of listing it. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnuha, Smaranam, Padasevanam. Shravanam. You cannot worship God. You don't know any mantras. Not a problem. On YouTube, there are a lot of stotras. There are a lot of stories about the Lord. Read the stories about the Lord. Listen to them. When you are traveling, you have nothing else to do. Okay, listen to his Leela, the stories. He's happy. Kirtanam. You do a song and dance, people play and they sit together, do collective prayers. Vishnuho, Smaranam, remember him. Padasevanam. You also do clean his temple and do some charity work. There's some big occasion, so you be a volunteer. Archanam, and do the puja. Okay. Vandanam, you have this vandana, you have this fire ritual where the light is shown to the Lord. Dasyam, think of yourself as a slave. Offer all your work at his feet. Then Sakhyam, look at Lord as your friend. And Mirabai, who looked at God as her consort. That is a very high level of spiritual connectivity. And there are a lot of people who connect with the Divine Mother as if she is their own mother. Sakya, sometimes they treat her as their own friend. They romantically relate to her. These gopis were great devotees who are trying to relate to the Lord as romantic friends. Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam, then you tell your internal thing, you tell your stories through tearful prayers. You tell your stories, do Atmanivedanam, surrender yourself, give yourself to the Lord. Iti Pungshar Pita Vishnu, and this way people surrender themselves to Vishnu. Bhakti Sa Navalakshana. These are 9 types of devotional rituals, devotional actions. Kriyate Bhagavati Adha, Bhagavatadha, Tanmanye Dhitamuttamam. And then those who do it, without doubt, verily, I know they have understood the secret of what it means to seek the attention of the Lord. Etacha Bhakti Rasayana Vakhyatam Vistarena. He's referring to his own book, Bhagavad Bhakti Rasayana. If you want to know more about this whole method of propitiating the Lord and connecting with him, read that book. Evam Sada Bhagavata Dharmanushtanena. Bhagavad Samanya is Bhagavata. So you do this Bhagavata Dharma Anushtanena. These are these vidhis, these advices that you're going to follow. Mai Anuraga Utpatya, then you grow in your love for me, yearning for me, seeking for me, Manamana, the sun, then you become filled with my consciousness. Mang Bhagavantam Vasudevam Eva Isyasi, and you will get me for sure if you seek me like that. Prapsyasi, you will get me. Vedanta Vakya Janitena Madhavodhyena, how will you get it? They say to love God, you need to understand God. Yet they say after you love God, to actually get God, you need to understand. The next level of connectivity is meditation and vichara. That's very critical. That's what is advised here. Tvam cha atra sansayam ma karshi. So don't have any doubts here. Satyam yathartham te tubhyam pratijane. Satyam eva pratigyam karomi asmin arthe. So I am telling you without any doubt, I'm making this promise that is going to be fruitful. So don't do any sort of confusion in your mind. Why? Yataha priyosi me, because you are dear to me. You are my dearest devotee. Priyasya pratarana na uchita eva iti bhavaha. You know, a good friend never cheats his best friend. And you're my best friend. You're my dearest person, so I'm not going to cheat you. Satyante prarava karmono ante. And then, in the end of your prarabdha karmas, there are three kinds of karmas we have discussed. Sanchita, Agami, and Prarabdha. Sanchita, millions of birds. The whole hard disk. It is this pen drive, and there are millions of gigabytes of these are all hidden there, karmas, impressions of several births. So liberation is impossible. No, it's possible. Through what? Through self-awareness. Then that hard disk gets corrupted, cannot give any bad or good results. Then what remains? Agami karma. A slesa, then there is no slesa, there is no samparka with the agami karmas once you have self-realization, because you don't have agency. Ahankya mamatva is gone, and therefore you are not affected. Aslesa vinasa. So the purva karmas is vinasta, and then the future karmas do not affect you. What remains? Prarabdha. They have begun to give results during this life. We came here to this life with the prarabdha, started prior to our coming here. So they will adjust their results. And only prarabdha karma can be adjusted through upasana and through bhoga. You suffer or you enjoy whatever money or punya or papa you have invested, you suffer or you enjoy the benefits, then this body comes to an end. But once you have this Vedanta jnana, even the prarabdha karma, Bhagavan Shankaracharya clarifies, they become useless because you have Atma jnana. The physical illnesses or mental pain or whatever is only apparent. Inwardly, nothing is going to affect you because you already know you are liberated. Sati, mam eva isyati. So when the prarabdha comes to the end, you will get me. What does it mean? Va. Anuvada apekshaya vishwasadharya prayojanam prathamam vakhyanam eva shriyaha. So he's saying that instead of trying to translate it, that after doing this Vedanta and this and that, Prarabdha Karma, and they will get liberation, it's much better that you just simply believe that with complete dedication, devotion to the Lord, we continue to do our karma, the Jnananishta will happen in this whole process, and then God's grace is going to lift us out of this whole process, this whole vicious circle. Anena yat purvam uktam, Bhagavan has mentioned earlier, yadaha prabhuti bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim bindati manavaha. That he has said, all right, already he has mentioned in the verse number 46 of this very chapter, that by doing this particular thing, the property, everybody is kind of guided by that. And by your own karmas, by your own, wherever you are, whatever karmas you are doing, and then by the Almighty, who is all pervading, you try to offer all your karma as a kind of prayer to Him, and then you get that siddhi, that qualification to know the self. Bindati manavaha. Iti tad vakyatam mat sabdena ishwaratva prakatana. So he's saying, I'm mentioning it, it's through the word of the Lord, therefore there shouldn't be any doubt about it. Now the next verse. This is the most powerful, to my mind, most sacred line in the Bhagavad Gita. And he's saying, Adhunata Ishvaraha Sarva Bhutanam Hriddesya Arjuna Tishtati. Yes, Bhagavan had said in the chapter 2 that there are these that the Lord is there sitting in all of you. You are guided by your Prakriti, but you are also Ishwaradhina. You are also controlled by the Almighty, who is Antaryami. He's pervading everyone, and you are not an exception. And therefore, he's saying, Sarvadharman paritajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. The last two words, ma shuchaha. Don't bother. Don't be depressed. Don't get scared. And what will I do? Aham tva sarva papebhyo. Because he is avoiding a war. Why? He has fears that he is going to commit a lot of sins. He has gone there to assert his rights. He is deprived for his rightful claim to his own estates. And he says the only way you can get these estates is by fighting a war with us. He says, okay, let's go do the war. But now he's scared. And he's kind of confused. And Bhagavan has explained this whole Bhagavad Gita to explain to him what is the secret of karma. What is Atma? What is life? What is death? What is the science of consciousness? What is the science of karma? And therefore he's saying, the fears, the apparent fears you have about sins, I shall rescue out of it. Moksha I shall liberate you. But what should I do, sir? In the first half, he mentions the ultimate line of Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman paritachya. There are so many rules and regulations of living a good life on earth. Vedavat rataha partha, he had mentioned earlier. That there are a lot of people who tell very sweet words that you will do this, you will get this result. A lot of people market their own ideas. And you have to go to these marketing people who say, oh, you want to be rich? You can be rich by spending. Come, join Amway. A lot of people, and he has become a billionaire, he becomes this, and suddenly you jump into it. That's what they're looking for. And many modern day gurus also try to sort of harvest a lot of religious denominations. They believe in harvesting followers, right? So they harvest. Now remember, that doesn't lead us anywhere. Bhagavan is saying, don't get dissuaded by all this. Sarva dharman paritajya mam ekam sharanam braja. You take refuge in one thing, that's me. Ekam. There's a top secret there. The moment he mentions ekam, dvinasti, there is no second. So actually Bhagavan says surrender to me, but in a much secret way, the non-dualistic conception of the self is hinted here. By worshipping the Saguna Brahma, we are going to get that one. When you get that one, do you exist? No, this is an illusion. It falls flat, vanishes. Sarva dharman paritachya mamekam saranam braja aham tva sarva papebhya mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. And we will do the elaboration of his beautiful commentary for this verse tomorrow. And we'll slowly progress. We'll take 2 more days to sort of bring this whole discourse of Madhusudana Saraswati on Bhagavad Gita to the end. So I'll stop here and we'll meet again tomorrow after doing the something of that. Thank you for listening.